on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. We're going to talk about a question that's perplexed the black community for a very, very long time and perplexed America. I got the answer to it. Why did black people leave the Republican Party? We're going to answer that question today on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, let's get this thing started. You know, one of the reasons I started this journey is because I started getting a question from a whole lot of good people, and I couldn't answer it. It was a very good question I just couldn't answer. And they were saying, man, why do good Christian black people consistently vote for the Democrat Party? Why do good Christian white people vote for the Democrat Party? And I'm sitting there saying, you know what, I don't have an answer to that question. Because I'm looking at Democrat Party policies. And you're looking at abortion up to the 9th month. You're looking at prayer out of schools. You're looking at porn in the libraries. You're looking at you're looking at these drag queens shaking their behinds in children's faces. And you say, I know these people see this. Why are they voting for this evil institution? Why can't they stop? And black Americans were really interesting to me. I mean, you know, it was because I was brought up in the black church. And Christianity and Jesus Christ was just a mainstay. You know, I knew the mores and the values of the people, and I would talk to them. And when I was growing up, you know, we didn't have access to the internet like we have now. We didn't have a lot of newspaper outlets, and the news didn't cover it. So you had no way of knowing where the Democratic Party stayed on these fringe issues because we never talked about them. They only talked about, black Democrats trying to get you free stuff, war on poverty, Vietnam protests, bring the troops home, stuff like that. But you didn't know on the other side, these young people trying to vote for abortion rights and LGBTQ and climate change, and this stuff has been going on for a long time. And, you know, I didn't know this stuff has been going on since the 70s, man, in the Democratic Party. They've been planning this stuff for a long time. I mean, a long time. So people would ask me, why are black people so smitten with this evil institution? And so I started doing research. I just started going to libraries, man, reading books, and just started finding out information that was just amazing to me and started cross-referencing things. So you go back to the Civil War, of course, right? And Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. The Republican Party came about in 1852 as a anti-slavery abolitionist party. That's why it began. A Northern anti-slavery Democrats, anti-slavery Whigs, know-nothings, all of them came together and formed the Republican Party in 1852. Their first candidate for president was John Fremont from California, trailblazer. He became a general, a Union general in the Civil War. John Fremont was a very interesting guy. Y'all need to read about him. He became the governor of California. He was the first Republican candidate for president, and he was an abolitionist. Of course, he wasn't elected that year. James Buchanan, no, I'm sorry, that was, yes, exactly, 1856. James Buchanan was elected. And then 1860, Abraham Lincoln ran. And Lincoln got the nomination. Oh, and the Democrats in the South lost their mind. They didn't even put Abraham Lincoln on the ballot in the southern states. You couldn't vote for him. Lincoln won anyway. But y'all know what happened. Everybody in the South who voted to succeed was a Democrat. Now, you might have had some old side parties like Know Nothings or Free Soil. I don't know. Some of them might have been involved in the mix. But there was no Republicans in the South that voted to succeed. Zero. That was a Democrat Party thing, man. And they can try to play states' rights, all this kind of crap, all they want to. The states' right that they wanted was a right to enslave black people. So when they said, it's a states' rights issue, yeah, it was a state rights issue, the right to enslave black people. Understand this, y'all. The federal Constitution did not speak about slavery. The only time they talked about it was when they talked about it in the 3/5 clause in the Constitution, where they talked about taxing people 3/5 of other people. And everybody wanted to say, well, they call black people 3/5 of a human being. Well, look, now, let's get this straight right now. The 3/5 clause of the Constitution was a compromise. See, the South tried to be slick, all right? They wanted to say black people were not human beings and were not citizens. But they wanted to use their numbers when it came down to congressional appropriation to get more congressmen. Because you got your congressmen based upon how many people were in a certain area. And so they said, well, we want to count our slaves as people so we can get more congressmen. And the people of the North said, holy, wait. The people, you say they're not citizens, you say they're not human beings. We're not going to let you count them for congressional reappropriation. And so they said, if you don't do it, we're going to vote for the Constitution. So there's a compromise. The people up north said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll let you count those people as 3/5 of an individual for taxation and for congressional appropriation. And that was a compromise. So when y'all start talking about they said we were 3/5 of individuals, it was about that, okay? And take it any way you want to take it with your ignorance. Thinking about y'all. Anyway, and how other people think about y'all shouldn't matter anyway. You know how you think about yourself. I always worry about how somebody else is thinking about you. If he don't think I'm special, I guess I'm not special. If you don't think you're special, you're not special. And if everybody else in the world think you're special and you don't think you're not special, you're not special. And if everybody in the world think you're not special and you think you are, it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's get back to this. All right. So after the Civil War, we get back to Reconstruction. Reconstruction was pretty interesting. They brought down Union troops. Union troops protected the freedmen because the freedmen still had slave mentality. They didn't fight for their freedom. It wasn't like what George Washington and the Americans did during the American Revolution, where they beat the hell out the British and ran them out of America, and they strutted and said, yeah, we free men. No, the slaves down south, the vast majority of them stayed on the plantation and waited for free white men and free black men to come free them. And when they got off the plantation, they said, what us do now? Just like a bunch of y'all right now, they didn't know what to do. So the Freedmen's Bureau came down and the Union troops came down to protect them from their old masters. And they protected their right to vote. They tried to protect them from the Ku Klux Klan, the Night Riders, and the Democrats. But something strange happened, y'all. The black people down south started voting for the Democratic Party. This is a part of the history that you don't know anything about. You can check it out for yourself. In the election of 1872, almost half the South went Democrat then inside the presidential election. In the election of 1876, black folks voting down south, saddest thing I ever heard in my life, whole South went Democrat. The entire South. South Carolina had 3 times more black people in it than it had white folks. And 101% of the electoral, of the people that could vote in South Carolina, voted for the Democratic Party. Now listen, that's impossible, okay? 101%. Black people were the registrars, black people were running the debt-gum elections. And they allowed the Democratic Party to take that state. Mississippi had 2 times more black men voting than white folks. And if you look at history, they had what they called the Mississippi and the South Carolina Plan. What was it? To go into the black community, and they said they were going to take out carpetbaggers, scallywags, and they was going to buy the black vote with money or keep them from voting through intimidation and murder. And that's how they did it in South Carolina and in Mississippi. And even with the Union Army down there, black people still allowed themselves, black men still allowed themselves to be subjugated. So the Republicans came down there knowing there was a bunch of shenanigans and said, look, if we ain't gonna let y'all cheat us out of this election. So the Republican Party came down there. They put together a delegation of 13 people. I think it was 7 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and said, go down there and find out what's going on. And they found out about all these shenanigans. And they said, no. We're not going to allow this. So the South said, we'll start a civil war again if y'all try to take this election away from the Democrats. So the Republicans got together. Now, here's some backstory here. The guy that was running on the Republican side, his name was Rutherford B. Hayes. You need to look Rutherford B. Hayes up. Rutherford B. Hayes was an awesome dude, man. He was a lawyer before the Civil War. And if you look at a map, you'll see that Ohio, he's the governor of Ohio, is right adjacent to Kentucky. So if you could get into Kentucky and get across the river and get into Ohio as a slave, you could be free. But of course, the slave catchers will come and try to get you. Rutherford B. Hayes had a law firm in Ohio where he would take any black slave that escaped slavery and he would defend them for free. It's a true story. After that, he joined the army in the Civil War, became a general. Hayes got shot about 5 or 6 times. Fought the whole duration of the war to free black people from slavery. You hear me? This dude didn't just do it before the war. This dude did it during the war. And then when he runs for president, all the black folks down south vote for the Democrat Party. The Democrat, Tilden, who tried to keep them in slavery. And guess what the Republicans had? And Hayes said, we've been down here since 1860, and this is 1876. It's been 16 years, going on 17 years. Fighting for, defending, dying, and killing for these black people down south. And these jokers done voted to put their slave masters back in charge. Ain't that some gratitude for you? Tell you what, if they want to be with their masters like that, let's let them have them. And the South said, if you pull out the troops, we'll let you have Hayes as president. And they pulled him out. And I don't blame them. I'd have pulled him out too. He was voted for the Democratic Party to run for president, and then I done got shot 5, 6 times trying to free y'all behind. Y'all gonna vote for the guy that tried to keep you in slavery? Yeah, be with your master. Go ahead on. Spending trillions of dollars on lost that gun 500,000 lives of black and white troops. And then you got the nerve to ask for some reparations? I tell you what, man, white folks got more patience than I got. Man, I wish I was a white person. You come back and talk about some reparations. Well, I tell you what, my Christianity would be tested that day. 500,000 lives. Offered you the Homestead Act where you can have 150 acres of land if you just go work it and you turned it down. Then you're going to vote for a Democrat to be president after that got shot 5 times trying to free you, done spent trillions of dollars for you, and then you're going to vote for the Democratic Party and get back on the plantation with your master. Yeah, go ahead then. So after that, guess what happened? You put your white master back in charge, and what did he start to? Oh, he started beating the hell out of you like he always did. They said the Republican Party will never, ever be seen down south again. You hear me? And every one of you black folks that even say you're Republican, we ain't going to just beat you. We going to beat you, castrate you, hang you from a tree, and let your mama, your daddy, your wives, and your children see us do it. And you want to know why black folks don't like the Republican Party? That's it. It got beat out of them. If you said you was a Republican, your own daddy and mama would beat you behind. Boy, don't you say that. White folks kill you for that. Think about you say Republican, your dad to slap you across the room. Think about you say Republican and your mama and your dad both start whooping your behind in the living room. Don't you say it. Don't you think it. White folks will kill you for it. Yeah, that's where the Stockholm Syndrome comes in. Stockholm Syndrome is when oppressed people start taking on the characteristics of their master. And black folks, full of that. So in the election of 1860, let's go to 1960. All black folks done been treated like dogs by the Democrats. Couldn't vote, hung from trees, literacy tests, 8-box tests. Just all kind of shenanigans to keep black people from voting. And finally, Republican Dwight Eisenhower, Vice President Richard Nixon, they passed the 1957 Civil Rights Act and the 1960 Civil Rights Act. Yeah, it was Eisenhower that sent the 101st Airborne down for the Little Rock Nine when the Democrats was down there beating the hell out of them black children because they wanted to go to school. It was Eisenhower that gave the first speech on civil rights by a president to the nation. Yeah, it was Eisenhower, Republican. And they passed the 1957 and 1960 Civil Rights Acts to make sure that black people could vote down south. And they sent FBI and the Civil Rights Division. They created that to go down there to make sure black people could vote. And the NAACP said that they registered, because of that act, they registered millions of black people to vote. Some say it was 2 million, some say it was 6 million. They'd never voted before. Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy watered down the Civil Rights Act because they didn't want to make the Southern Democrats angry. Every Southern Democrat voted against them. I'm trying to think if LBJ voted against them. I know Ralph Yarbrough in Texas didn't. I don't know about LBJ with 1957 and 1960. I know they watered them down. I don't know if LBJ actually voted against them, but I do know this. And here's the kicker. After all that Democrat Party beat down, after all that Democrat Party torture and castration and doing all this dirty crap to black folks, after all of that, from 1877 to 1960, all of that, when it came time to vote for president in 1860, 80% of black people voted for the Democrat Party. Again, just like they did in 1877. Black people always voted for the Democratic Party. You know why? Because you always loved your white master. Why'd they leave the Republican Party? They never been with her. It's a lie. They've always voted for their white masters. They did it in 1877. They did it mostly in 1876, and they did it mostly in 1872. You check the Electoral College maps and see it for yourself. And then when they got a chance to do it in 1960, they did it again. And in 1964. They never stopped. I'm not oppressed, you're a participant. We oppressed. How can you be oppressed when you're voting for the people that are beating you down? I can give you a perfect example of it. Try to argue with it and see the flaw. Thomas Jefferson owned Monticello. Monticello, by the time Jefferson had died, had about 4,000 slaves on it. He had a bunch of slaves at Monticello. Bunch of slaves at Monticello. John Adams was running against Thomas Jefferson for president. John Adams had been president, second president. Thomas Jefferson was his vice president. They decided, John Adams did one term and was running again. Thomas Jefferson, his vice president, did a Mike Pence on John Adams. And said, I don't like you, we're going to get it on. And they ran against each other. John Adams was an abolitionist, lived in Massachusetts, never owned a slave in his life, hated slavery. Thomas Jefferson had Monticello, one of the biggest slave plantations in America. Question for you, all you good people out there. Answer, and if you answer honestly, you'll know the answer is correct. If the slaves on Monticello had a vote in that presidential campaign to vote for John Adams, the abolitionist, or Thomas Jefferson, their slave owner, who would those slaves voted for? You know who they'd have voted for. They'd have voted for Master Jefferson and would have did a Holy Ghost dance when he won the presidency. And you're doing it right now. Voting for your old master. Ain't nothing changed. It's a variation on a theme. I'm just reminding you of it. You ain't gonna like it. I don't care. Ain't none of y'all gonna whoop me. Truth hurts, don't it? It's like a two-edged sword. You've never not voted for your plantation master. If he strangled you to death, you kiss him with your dying lips. All but things are changing now. There's a new generation of black people that says, we ain't doing this no more. That's where the hope comes from. That's where the hope comes from. You know where they come from? Watching Cardi B do her speech for Kamala Harris. You know that political scientist from Harvard University, Cardi B? She decided to speak for the Democratic nominee, President of the United States of America. Let me hear what you got to say. Cardi B! And then Offset came up and spoke. That brilliant gentleman and scholar from Oxford University. Offset! Talking about how many N-words he done shot and how many, W's he done had sex with, how much money he got. Then he wanted to turn it to politics. Yeah. And then at the end of it, we had Megan Thee Stallion twerking. And there was enough good Christian black and white people to say, these jokers just done took it too damn far. And there's the turn. And maybe we'll finally recognize after 220 years, dang man, 220 years. Maybe after 220 years, we'll finally start recognizing that this institution is an evil institution. There was a light, y'all, when they said that a large percentage of the black male vote voted this time and left these perverts, liars, psychopaths, anti-Christian bigots, thugs, hoes, and rappers alone. They said, we don't want to be a Democrat. We'll be independent. We're going to go to the other side. I heard an old boy say the other day, it's very, 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 very interesting. I liked it. He said, God might not be a Republican, but the devil is sure enough a Democrat. With that, hope I did you some good today. So join me tomorrow for another episode of the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website, and on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts, we're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it, make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good. And it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Get merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentary. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.